Hi guys, I'm Big Mike, and like always, I'd like to thank you for being here today. Today we have Josh from NinjaTrader here to talk about strategy development with NinjaScript inside of NinjaTrader. Specifically, Josh wants to talk about techniques for risk management in your strategy, as well as how to backtest effectively and translate those results into action items for you to use in your strategy. There's also going to be an open Q&A, so as you guys have questions, type them into the questions box, and Josh will do his best to answer everyone's question. As always, the webinar is being recorded, and I will post it on BMT sometime tomorrow. All right, guys, give me 1 second, and I will be turning things over to Josh.
Okay, so I want to thank everybody for joining me here today. It's the weekend, so I appreciate you guys spending time here. I want to thank Mike for hosting this webinar for us, and I want to go ahead and today I just wanted to talk about how you guys can use NinjaTrader to effectively manage your risk with your strategy. Every day you guys are running your strategy, but not every strategy works every single day. It's like different strategies have different trade logic and things like that. Maybe some strategies perform better during trending days. Maybe some perform better during choppy days. But every strategy has an off day, and we want to go ahead and be able to program into our strategy basically fail-safes. So we want to be able to protect our money, essentially. And that's basically what I want to try and present here today on how we can go ahead and do that in NinjaTrader. So to start off, we can go ahead and start with, actually let me take a step back. I'm going to be doing, basically I'm going to be showing my screen on how I actually program, so you guys can follow along either on your own NinjaTraders or just watch me program it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask at any time. I will take some pauses in between to answer questions, but if I skip over any question, go ahead and just re-enter it, and I'll go ahead and try and answer them at a later point in time. But I think everybody would get the best value from this webinar if you guys followed along with your own NinjaTrader. So if you guys don't have NinjaTrader running yet, please go ahead and fire that up on your end over there. Okay, so to start, we need actually to do anything with risk management. We actually need to start with a strategy. So just to start, I'm going to go ahead and create a really basic strategy so we can have something to work with. And to do that, I'm going to actually use our NinjaScript strategy wizard. And if you guys are not familiar with this strategy wizard here, over on NinjaTrader's website, we do have a whole dedicated webinar discussing how to use this strategy wizard. So I'm not going to really discuss it in detail. I'm just going to make something really fast here. A simple moving average crossover strategy. So I'm going to name my strategy BMT. And then I'm just going to quickly create us a moving average strategy here. So I'm making some variables here. And then let's go ahead and create, what do I want? I want my simple moving average to cross above another simple moving average. So I want my fast period SMA to cross above my slow period SMA. And everything I'm showing you right now, again, is covered in a different webinar over on NinjaTrader, which is free every week, so you guys can go ahead and check that out if you guys are interested in it. But right now I'm just doing it really fast because it doesn't really matter right now. So once we make our strategy, so right now I'm using just really basic logic. when the fast period SMA crosses above the slow period SMA, I'm entering into a long position. And when the fast period SMA crosses below a slow period SMA, I'm reversing my position into a short position. And that's basically my strategy. So I'm done making my strategy right now, and I can go ahead and unlock my code here. And that brings me over into our strategy wizard, or strategy editor, NinjaScript editor here. And you guys can use any trading logic you guys have on your own. I just use something really simple. I had some questions about, can I expand the windows? Yeah, let me go ahead and try making it bigger. Hopefully the screen's big enough now. High five. Wait, Alex says, wait, do you close the long when entering short? Alex, yes. So let me just really briefly go over the current strategy logic I have in here for our framework. What my code is saying right now is when the fast period SMA crosses above the slow period SMA, I'm entering into a long position. And when the fast period SMA crosses below the slow period SMA, I'm entering into a short position. And what NinjaTrader automatically does is if it sees that you're in a long position, and it sees you're trying to enter a short position, it'll automatically close your long position first and then reverse you into a short position. So you don't actually have to have something like exit long, blah, 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 first before you type in enter short. You can just type, you can just code in enter short instead of specifically saying you want to exit first. So that's a little trick that you guys can do on your end over there. So now that we have our basic strategy, just a really basic strategy made, let me go ahead and compile my strategy here by pressing the compile button up top. And then just so we get an idea of what the performance is like, let me go ahead and connect up here to something and get some data. So we have a baseline of what our what our strategy performance is like. So I'm going to go ahead and connect so I get some data, and then open up my strategy analyzer. And from here you can just select whatever instrument you want to backtest on, and then I'm just going to backtest it on about 9 months of data, and go ahead and click run. And in a few moments we should be able to see a baseline of what our strategy does. So our baseline is pretty terrible. We lost about $5,000. So that's, I guess, what we're going to try and do is improve upon this number. Now, the techniques I'm showing here today are not necessarily going to improve my strategy, because I'm just using some really, basic logic, trading logic. But what we want to do is I want to show you guys the techniques where you guys can take that and apply it to your own strategies in whatever manner you see fit. So the techniques I'm showing are going to be fairly specific techniques, but they have broader implications where you can take the same concept that I'm showing and bring it over to your strategy and make it applicable to your strategy. And it may work better depending on your strategy's trading logic. So it's definitely something that you guys can explore on your own, and don't feel like just because if this number does not improve by the end of today that it's not working. It really depends on the trade logic of the strategy we're working with. Tom had a question, what are the SMAs? Tom, my SMAs right now are set to 10 and 25. That's just the defaults I was using. It's nothing of significant value right now. Okay, so now that we know our baseline of negative $5,000, I'm going to pull that over to the side. And then Brian had a question, can you say something about the hardware platform you're backtesting on? Of course. Brian, the hardware I'm using is, that's a good question. Let me take a look here. My computer is a Core i7 with about 8 gigabytes of RAM here, 64-bit. I don't think it's top of the line by any stretch, but it's not a weak machine either. So hopefully that helps you out there, Brian, if you're looking to buy a new computer or something like that. Okay, so now back to our strategy. So we started our strategy with a crossover condition, and what I want to do is, I guess, to first show you guys how you can limit the number of trades your strategy is taking. Maybe you find yourself in a strategy where it just takes way too many trades. Maybe it's trading like 50, 100, 200 times a day or something like that, and you just want to limit that down to 10 trades or something like that. Maybe you want to instead of tweaking your strategy logic, you want to introduce just hard set number of trades that your strategy can take. And to do that, you can create what's known as a counter. So basically you count the number of trades your strategy is doing, and then you go ahead and once that counter is met, you just don't trade anymore. And to do that, what you can do over in the variable side is you want to actually make a counter variable. So I'm going to start up here with private int counter, and then we've traded 0 times so far, so my default number will be 0. And then over on the on bar update, we can go ahead and introduce that counter into our trading logic. So if, let's say, counter is greater than 10, for instance, then we want to allow, let's see what we want to do. We want to, actually, let me do it the reverse way. If the counter is less than 10, then we want to allow for trading. So this is, the very, very basic type of, risk management you can do. It's just, if the counter is less than 10, I'm going to keep allowing for trading. And then the way the counter knows how many trades you've done is you actually need to increment it. So if, let's say we went into a long trade here, we want to go ahead and go counter plus plus, which basically just means our counter gets incremented by 1. So if it's 0, it gets added to, so it becomes 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. And if we go into short positions, we also want to increase our count over here as well. So after our strategy makes 10 trades, the counter will be at 10, and then this if statement would no longer be valid, and then we would no longer be trading. So that's the first step in setting this counter here, trade counter basically. Another thing that you want to note is that now that we have, we tell our strategy that we can only trade 10 times. But that's not really that useful though right now, because what the strategy does is actually it calculates historical trades too. So if you're running your strategy on, let's say, a 5-day chart, the first day it probably already made those 10 trades, and then it would just never trade again on day 4, day 3, day 2. It's just, what you want to do is you actually want to reset this counter on the beginning of every single session. And to do that, here's a little trick that you want to maybe jot down, or if you're not familiar with it, to get every single, I guess, session. By session, I just mean like every single trading day. You can use what's known as bars.first bar of session. So when this if statement is true, it means you're on the first bar of a brand new session. So it's basically, it allows you a reset point at the beginning of every new session. So we want to go ahead and reset our counter down to 0 at the beginning of every single session. And if you guys are using a strategy that uses calculate on bar close false over here, what you can do also, instead of having just bars.first bar of session being evaluated to true, maybe for 100 ticks for the first bar or something like that, you can also add in first tick of bar into this if statement. And what that does is it literally gets you the very, very, very beginning of a new session. So that gets you, the first tick of the first bar on a brand new session. So it allows you a point in time where you can reset any variables you need to reset. Wolfgang said, I am not a NT user, but interested in the software. Will I be able to, with NT, to store and later load the number of trades and also the data entry after reboot? Wolfgang, you can definitely NinjaTrader does store all that information. Just because you restart your computer does not, you do not lose that information. Wolfgang. Alex had a question, can I use this to limit the number of open trades I have? Alex, to limit the number of open trades would be, you will want to use a different technique. Right now I'm using, I'm just limiting the number of, actual number of trades I entered, not necessarily that are currently open. If you want to limit the number of open trades, there's something known as entries per direction and entries. So if I run a strategy, you'll notice you have this entries per direction, and this by default already limits your strategy to 1 entry per direction. And if you want to, let's say, by direction I mean like if you're long, that's a direction. If you're short, that's a direction. If you wanted to have your strategy allow your strategy to have, let's say, 3 long, 3 open long positions at a time, you can set that to 3 over here, and then your strategy would enter long 3 times if the strategy is coded in a way that just keeps trying to enter. So that's one way that you can have your strategy scaling. Hopefully that answers your question there, Alex. And Hi-Fi said should be less than or equal to. Hi-Fi, I didn't really think about it too much. It's probably, let me think. I think it's less than. I didn't give it too much thought, but right now I'm just using some basic logic, so it doesn't really, it doesn't impact us if it's less than or equal to, per se. Bob, will this basic strategy only have 1 trade at a time? Bob, you're correct. Right now my strategy only has 1 trade at a time. That is correct. Alex, you said if I use a list. Alex, I'm not sure what you mean by if you're using a list. If you could clarify that, I'll get back to you on that one. Okay, so back to our trade counter here. Maybe Hi-Fi was right. I'm just not really thinking about it too much right now. What the counter is. If it's less than or equal to 10, yeah, that might make sense. But that's up to you guys. What you guys want to do with this number. If you guys want it up to 10, if you guys want it down to 5. It's really up to you how many trades you guys want. So right now we're saying 10 trades per day because I'm resetting the counter at the beginning of every single day. So now that we have the basic, hey, how do we limit the number of trades, let's go ahead and make this a little bit more robust. Limiting the number of trades is cool, but it's not that useful. At least in my opinion. What I find more useful is maybe saying, hey, I want to limit the number of trades if my current trading or my past trading has yielded certain performance. Maybe I want to stop my strategy after I've made $100, $1,000 or something during the day. Maybe I want to stop my strategy if my strategy is losing a lot of money. Maybe if my strategy had 3 consecutive losses, I want to go ahead and do something about that. So those are the types of questions that I want to be able to handle over here in NinjaTrader. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and first take out our trade counter here, and then show you guys the other techniques here. Let me go ahead and bring this over and remove our trade counter. And to do the type of performance analysis I was just referring to, in NinjaTrader there are 3 different object types that you want to become familiar with. They're known as performance objects, trade objects, and trade collection objects. So what I'm going to do is bring up my help guide over here and show you guys a little bit about these items I'm referring to. So if I type in performance here, there is an article called performance over here that you want to go ahead and click up. And basically, a performance object is, it holds a trade collection. So if you want to think about it, you need to think about all three of these objects that I just mentioned as a whole system. So a performance object basically holds trade collections. And a trade collection is basically, it's it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a collection of trades. And basically a trade object is, you enter a position and then you close out. That's a trade object. From the trade object, we're able to get information like, hey, this trade made $100. That trade lost $50 or something like that. So when you think about all of these theory things combined together, you start with the performance object to get a trade collection. So by trade collections, you have a collection that's holding all of your trades, a collection that's holding only your long trades, you have a collection that's holding only your short trades and only your real-time trades. So you can go ahead and go, hey, maybe I want to go ahead and use my all trades. So then you click on all trades and you have an example over here how to use that. But in a broader sense, we want to go ahead and understand what a trade collection is. So if I go ahead and click on trade collection over here, it brings me over to the trade collection article, and you'll notice that from the trade collection, inside the trade collection object, it has a further item called trades performance. And when you click on that one, you're able to get all types of information like, what's your average bars in trade, maximum consecutive losers, maximum consecutive winners, and things like that. So it's just a bunch of statistics that can, maybe help you determine what you want to do. So, if you want to go ahead and click on currency, you want some values in currency mode, you can go ahead and get trades performance values over here, which returns you things like your average MFE, your average MAE, or your average profit for that whole collection. So right now I'm talking about you're able to get statistics on the whole collection of trades. So if you want your average profit for all your long trades, you're able to get that. If you want your average profit for all your short trades, you're able to get that. So this whole network of objects, you definitely want to go through the help guide here. I'm not going to be able to cover every single possibility, every single statistic that's available to you over here, but depending on what you're interested in, maybe you're interested in like the Sharpe ratio, maybe you're just interested in just your P&L. It's really up to you what you find interesting statistics-wise. But from the trade collection, remember I said the trade collection is a collection of every single trade of that type that you have. So if we actually go over to the trade objects, you can see that we're able to get, what was the commission on this particular trade, what was the entry price, what was the exit price. You're able to get, what was the profit and how many shares you traded. So you're really able to dig down and get all this granular information to build up some kind of idea of how your strategy performed, maybe in the last 3 trades, maybe in the last 5 trades, maybe through the last day, or maybe even the last week. And with that information, you can tell your strategy, hey, maybe this is not a good time to trade. Let me go ahead and prevent trading. Or maybe you see yourself, just really hauling in some good trades right now for whatever reason. Maybe you want your strategy to dynamically adjust the quantity to that. Maybe you find your strategies working well. You want your strategy to, instead of buying 1 contract, you want to go ahead and step that up to 2 contracts or something like that. So those are just some ideas that I've seen in the past that people have used, and we're going to go ahead and employ these 3 objects: the performance object, the trade collection object, and the trade object. So I'm going to take a quick pause here and try to answer some questions. Tom says the print is a bit faint, makes reading a problem. Tom, I'm sorry, I don't know how to make this bigger, but on your own end, if you press F1 on your NinjaTrader, that'll automatically open up your own NinjaScript help guide where you can read the information on your end over there instead of trying to look through the projection here. Bill says, how can we limit trades to a certain time? Bill, that is a good question. I can show you guys that. I can show you that a little bit at the end of the webinar if I still have time. But that's a different type of limiting that you can definitely do, but I want to show this performance trade stuff first, and then if I have time I'll go ahead and show that one as well. Alan says, could it be programmed for a start point of time? Alan, that's basically the same kind of question that Bill had, so hopefully I get to that at the end of the webinar over there. Xavier had a question, is there an MFE and MAE data series? Xavier, I believe I showed you a little bit where the MFE and MAE statistics were, so you can definitely get that off of the trades collection object when you're working with that. Juan says, I cannot hear anything. Juan, I'm not sure how to fix your sound. I think maybe if you tried restarting the projection, maybe that would work on your end. Hopefully everybody can still hear me on my end, though. Xavier also said, can you access just the last N number of trades in trades collection? Xavier, that is definitely something you can do. You can access the whole collection. You can access just 3 objects or 3 trades in that collection. And I'm actually going to be showing you guys how to access only, the last trade, only the, the last 3 trades or something like that. So we're going to go ahead and see an example of that here, Xavier. Wolfgang had a question, drawdown for individual trades at multiple entries available as well, or will all trades be consolidated at one average? Wolfgang, so the drawdown is basically, it's let me take a look here. You're talking about over here in the trades performance where you saw, I think it was here, where did it go? Let me see. Trades performance values over here, so drawdown. That's a good question, Wolfgang. I don't recall off the top of my head if it's actual individual trades or if it's some kind of average right now. If you send me an email at support@ninjatrader.com and just write attention Josh, I can go ahead and get back to you on that. So unfortunately, I just don't recall right now off the top of my head, what exactly the math for that is. Sorry about that. Stephen had a question, can one monitor simulated trading to control real trading? Stephen, you can definitely do that. That would be more complicated on your code, or you need to differentiate, what you're considering simulated trading and what you're considering real trading. But you can definitely do that. I don't think I will have time to cover that here today, but it is definitely possible. Christoph had a question, what happens when the PC restarts and I do have an open trade, something to synchronize? Christoph, if you restart your computer and you had a strategy that was already running before, depending on your broker, that order may actually, that order is definitely still at your broker if you place the trade. But let's say if you have some OCO functionality going on with those trades, depending on the broker, that may or may not have persisted, but you want to go ahead and start up your strategy again. And NinjaTrader does have some synchronization features, which is a completely different topic. But yes, NinjaTrader does try to synchronize your restart strategy to what you already currently have on your account. And for the most part, depending on your strategy logic, it'll be able to recover where you left off before you restarted your computer over there. Mr. Yu had a question. Have you mentioned the difference between historical backtesting collections and live? Mr. Yu, the difference you're referring to is over here on this page here. Your performance, you're able to get different trade collections. If you only wanted your real-time, or basically your live trades, you want to go ahead and use the real-time trades collection. If you just want all of your trades, historical and real-time trades, you want to go ahead and use your all trades collection over here. So that's how you can go ahead and differentiate between the two, Mr. Yu. Okay, I'm going to hold on questions here so we can get back to actually showing you guys how to use these 3 objects I just was talking about. So back on the code end here, I guess what I want to do is, let's just say, if my strategy has 3 consecutive losers, I'm going to go ahead and try and stop my strategy from trading. So to do that, to do that, what we want to do first is, let me think here. Well, what we want to do here first is we want to know, first off, how many trades in the current day we have. So we want to be able to know that our strategy has traded at least 3 times in the current session. And to do that, we can go ahead and start with the new session stuff that I was referring to earlier. So we got the bars, first bar of session and first tick of bar. And then from here, we want to go ahead and, let's see, we want to save. So, okay, so what I'm thinking right now, to get the number of trades in the current session, I want to know how many total number of trades I've done in the past and subtract that from the current number of trades. So to do that, I'm going to store, let's see, prior session trades count equals, so I'm going to be using my performance object now. So I'm going to go performance dot, let's go ahead and use all trades, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the count on that. So when I go performance.alltrades.count, I'm saying I want to get the total number of trades that my strategy has done at this particular point in time, which is the very beginning of a new session, and set that into a variable I have not made yet called prior session trades count. So I'm going to go ahead and make that variable right now. So private int prior session trades count. I'm just going to have that default to 0. So right now at the beginning, I now know, at the very beginning of every single session, I know how many historical trades I've made. And then to get my current number of trades to be at least 3, I can do something like this. I can go if performance.alltrades.count minus prior session trades count is, let's say, greater than or equal to 3, then I want to go ahead and do something. So I'm just going to push my trade logic down a little bit so we have room to work with. But so what I'm saying right now is, after we keep trading, our trade count will keep increasing. And then when our trade count increases, let's say our prior number of trades was 10. When our current trade count increases to 13, 13 minus 10 is 3, so it equals 3. So we know we've traded at least 3 times in the current session. So when we trade at least 3 times, then we can go ahead and say, let me go ahead and grab the last 3 trades and see what the performance of those last 3 trades are. So how we actually go about getting those last 3 trades, we can use a loop to get the last 3 trades, or we could use, just manually accessing all 3 of those trade objects. But I prefer using a loop because that allows us to be a little bit more dynamic. Maybe we want to change this number to 10, 15, or something like that. Let's actually go ahead and make this into a variable too then. So let's go private in trades count current session. Okay, so we'll start with 0, and then let's go ahead and just use that over here instead of 3. And then we can go to access my 3 trades, the loop I was referring to, we can go ahead and make a for loop here. So if index equals 1, if the index is less than or equal to this trade count I have here for the current session, I'm going to go ahead and increment my loop. Then from here, I can access, once I have this loop going, I can access through the trade collection. So if you remember, I said the trade collection holds every single individual trade object in that collection. So I want to go ahead and loop through that trade collection and grab the relevant trade objects that I wanted from that collection, and then check out the performance on those ones. So to do that, we want to go ahead and say, let me think here. Well, we want to go ahead and make a trade object. So I'm making a trade object. Let's just call it trade, for instance. And then let's go ahead and try and access some performance data. So performance.allTrades, and then I want to go ahead and so what I'm doing right now is I'm telling the strategy which particular trade I want to access. So if you notice on my screen right now, it says int index, get the nth trade in green text over here. What I'm doing is I'm accessing a very specific trade and setting that trade to a trade object I made called trade. So the way this index works is that the last trade is stored on the last index value. So you want to go ahead and, since I'm trying to grab the last 3 trades, I want to go ahead and utilize this loop I'm using right now to determine what index value I want to access at. So remember, the most recent trade is the last index value, and the last index value is actually just the performance or the total count of this trade collection. So if I go performance.allTrades.count, and then if I go -1, that gives me the last trade. The reason I have to go -1 is because this indexing starts at 0. It does not start at 1. So let's say if you had 10 trades, your count would be 10, but your indexing would be 0 through 9 instead of 1 through 10. So if you just left it at count, you'll be trying to access an index value of 10, which does not exist because you're storing at index 0, index 1, blah, 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 to index 9 instead of 1 through 10. So hopefully that makes sense why I'm doing a -1 over here. But this -1 is actually only grabbing the, what is it called? It's only grabbing the last trade, and that's not what I want. I want to actually loop through this collection. So instead of using -1, I'm going to go minus index here. So IDX minus index. So when my IDX increases through the loop, so it will be -1, which will be the most recent trade. The next time through the loop, it would be a value of 2. So it would be -2, which would be the previous trade. -3 would be the prior trade to that, 4, and so on and so forth. So we can go ahead and do that. Actually, let me go ahead and change this away from 0 to 3. So we're doing 3 loops here. So now that I have my trade object, I can go ahead and check out the performance on this trade object. So I can go trade dot, let's just say profit currency, and then let's say if the trade object's profit currency is less than 0. So basically, if it's losing money, if my trade is losing money, I want to go ahead and I guess I want to go ahead and keep a tally on that. You know, I want to see if I have 3 consecutive losers, so I need all 3 loser count here plus. So I need to make another variable. So private loser count equals 0 to start. So when this loser count, if it reaches 3, that means, because my loop is only going through 3 times, if it reaches 3, that means I had 3 consecutive losers from the last 3 trades, and I'm going to go ahead and stop my trading at that point. So if the loser is plus, right, so okay. So now that I have that done, I can go over here to my trade logic and be like, if loser count is, let me see, if it's less than 3, then we'll go ahead and continue trading. If it's greater than 3, then, well, we're not going to trade anymore. So if the loser count is less than 3, we'll keep allowing it to trade. Else, if the loser count is equal to 3, then we'll go ahead and close any position that we may have open and just effectively stop our strategy. So if position dot market position equals long, so if we're in a long position, I'm just going to go exit long. So if we are in a short position, I'm going to exit short. Okay, so now that I have this loser count incrementing, I also need to set a restart point for this. And the restart point for this should actually be before this for loop. So before this for loop, I'm going to go ahead and add in loser count equals 0. So just every time we come into this loop to check how many losers we have, or how many losing trades in a row we have, we can go ahead and have a fresh count of that. And then one other thing that we need to add here before this whole thing comes together is, so right now we're just saying if performance.alltrades.count minus prior session trades is greater than the current number of trades, we're going to figure out how many losers we have, which is fine, but it's a little bit unnecessary to keep calculating the number of losers we have if we haven't traded. So if we don't make any new trades, there's no point to constantly be calculating how many consecutive losers we have. So what I'm going to add in now is just a way to have this block of code only executed after we make new trades. So we're going to go ahead and add, let's see here, what can we add? We can add if we have performance.alltrades.count minus, let's say, a new variable I have, current trade count, and that's equal to 0, then we'll go ahead and continue doing this. So we need to go ahead and current trade count equals performance.alltrades.count. And hopefully that works. I mean, let me think through this logic. I don't know if that actually works. Let me just delete it for now. Brain is not working right now, so I'm going to delete that for now. But so I believe what we have right now is just, it's a little bit inefficient over here, but it's okay to demonstrate my point. So I'm going to go ahead and try and run this strategy and take a look at how it's performed. Oops, so we need to get rid of our counter here, which we added earlier. So let's go ahead and try this. So we come over to our strategy analyzer. So originally we had minus $5,000. Let's go ahead and try running the backtest again. So we lost $137 yet, but we're trading so few times now, so we're only trading 4 times. So this to me means that maybe I coded something a little bit wrong here. So let me go ahead and go back to my code and check out what may have happened. Why is it only trading 4 times? Let's see. So this is part of the process of programming. You have some idea in mind, you type out the code, and then something happens when you actually run the code. It doesn't necessarily work out the way you like, and it's all part of the process of programming. So let's go ahead and try and find what I may have done wrong here. So if bars.first bar session and first tick of bar, that means we're restarting this prior session count. Okay, so we're setting that correctly. If the current count minus the prior session count is greater than the trade count current session, it's greater than our 3 over here. So if we made 3 trades, then we want to go ahead and determine this loser count. So okay. So the issue I have is this right here. So the problem is I put this in the wrong spot. Maybe I should probably reset that at the beginning of a new session too. So let's go ahead and do that, and let's check it out. Let's compile, and let's run our strategy. Bingo. So we have 5,000 some trades, and it's less than 5,000. We probably saved about $500 off our strategy with limiting based on performance over here. So, you know, that's not a significant performance gain, but it's a little bit of a performance gain. So that's uh, that's good to see. So let me go ahead and answer some questions we had over here. High Five says, if we use performance in our strategies, does data output be seen automatically on the chart? High Five. You'll notice over here on my strategy analyzer, I run the strategy, and if I click on the chart here, the chart tab, you can see all the trades being made. So, oops. Let me go ahead and scroll over here. There we go. So you can see all the trades that the strategy is making. Let's find a spot where it may have done 3 consecutive losers in stock trading. I believe here's actually a spot here. So, right, exactly. So if you guys notice over here, this is our first losing trade, our second losing trade, and then our third losing trade. Oh, actually, our code's a little bit off then. Actually, wait, let me take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so our code's a little off. It did 4 consecutive trades. It saw 4 consecutive losing trades before it stopped the trading. But that's okay. We can go back and tweak it to fix that. But you know, it's all part of the process of, you know, just back testing your strategy, debugging your strategy, and figuring out how exactly to make it work. So that's good that, you know, you brought that up there, High Five, so we can actually see our strategy logic not work exactly the way we wanted it to work. Steven says, I am concerned about what happens when a large trade is executed as 100 share and 200 shares. What trades are counted? The original order of the executed number of trades. Steven, I believe you're referring to like partial fills. So a trade object holds, let's say if you put in your order for 1,000, if it filled 100 shares and then it filled again for 200 shares and then blah blah blah, so on and so forth, your trade object actually just aggregates that at the end of all the trades. So you don't need to count those as separate trades. It knows that it all came from the same, what's known as an order object. So it knows that this particular trade had this order object and that order object for your entry and exit, and then it pairs those together as a trade. It's not necessarily keeping track of, hey, this order object had 5 executions to finally get 1,000 shares, for instance. Hopefully that answers your question there, Steven. Bob says that will only count closed trades, not trades in progress. Correct. Bob, this is correct. My current code is only counting closed trades. It is not counting trades in progress. If you want trades in progress, you need to do a completely different technique than what is shown right now. So trades in progress, let me see what I can find for you here in the help guide that may help you out. Let me think. What can you get? So, oops. Let me see. Just checking something really quickly right now. There was something I remembered that you could use that is just slipping my tongue right now. I can't think of what you needed to use. Give me 1 second to look for it. Again, so if I haven't mentioned this earlier, this help guide is very, it's very useful for you guys to find information on all the various methods and properties available to you. So what I'm looking for right now is a property for just the current position's profit loss right here. Okay, so Bob, what you want to use is you want to use this get profit loss. So when you go position.get profit loss, that gives you your unrealized P&L. So that gives you your open trades P&L. So that's one thing that you want to go ahead and use on your end if you wanted to keep track of what your current positions, open positions are doing. So that's one way you can keep track of that. Steven says, I see you reposted the same question there again, Stephen. Wolfgang says, could you print the MAs into the chart? Wolfgang, you can definitely print the MAs onto the chart. I just haven't coded it in. What you would do is you can do something like over here in the initialize method, you can go add SMA, and then I guess add a fast period. And then I also had a slow period. And I think that should do it. Let me go ahead and run the backtest again with that. And we should see 2 orange lines with my SMAs. Right, so you got your SMAs now. And then there's also ways that you can change the color depending on your code, but I'm not going to go into that right now. But you can definitely do that, Wolfgang. Xavier said, could you touch on the exact logic the strategy analyzer uses for backtesting? For example, profit target and stop loss are both reached during the same bar. Which one gets executed? Xavier, that's a good question. If you guys are using stuff like set stop loss, set profit target, stuff like that, what NinjaTrader does in the strategy analyzer, if on the same bar both the target and the stop loss would have been hit, NinjaTrader takes the most conservative route, which basically means that we will fill your stop loss instead of your profit target. What this does is it'll help you understate your performance, meaning we give you the most conservative performance value, and our thinking on that is if your strategy performs well under the most conservative report possible, it would perform well on your regular performance or your regular times, and also on just if it would have filled the profit target, it would perform well either. So if you can, if it looks good on the worst case scenario, it'll probably look even better on the best case scenario. So if we give you the worst case scenario and you make your strategy work very well on the worst case scenario, it'll only perform better than that. So that's our logic on why we fill the stop loss instead of the profit target if both orders or if both of them could have been filled on the same bar. So hopefully that answers your question there, Xavier. But so I think that's, we saw a little bit problems in our code over here in terms of the loop over here, but that's okay. Hopefully you guys saw how you guys can program this kind of technique and understand the value of this performance class over here, the trade object, and the trade collections and things like that. So those were the 3 concepts. I wrestled with it a little bit when I was first learning this stuff. Hopefully you guys got like a crash course in it today, and I want to show you guys a lot of resources available to better illustrate my points here, because I do know it's confusing. I'm not even sure if what I talked about here was, if it made a lot of sense or if I was going too fast. But what I want to show you guys here right now is over on our NinjaTrader support forum. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. On our support forum, there's a section called reference samples. So you guys definitely want to go to this section here called reference samples. And then in here, there are several key, key reference samples that you want to look at. So the first one would be over here, stopping a strategy after consecutive losers. So this one, you guys want to go ahead and come here, download this attachment file and load that into your NinjaTrader, and then you can see sample code with a lot of comments on that. So this is definitely a very good resource to help you further understand the concepts I was talking about here today. Another one, besides this stopping a strategy after consecutive losers, you want to go ahead and check out, where is it? You guys can go ahead and check out this one here, monitoring stop loss and profit target orders. Another one you want to check out is halting a strategy once user-defined conditions are met. And this one right here is a very nice one too, using trade performance statistics for money management. So I didn't cover a lot of things that you guys can do with the performance objects, with the trade collections objects and all those statistics. Those particular reference samples that I just pointed out here, you guys definitely want to check those out, as it'll give you more information on the techniques I was using here today. So, you know, if anything, it'll help solidify what I showed here today and maybe even make more sense, because in those references, let me actually just bring up some code of them. So you can see that if I go edit, it can open up, let's say, sample trade objects here. You can see that we have a lot of code comments in here that you can read through to try to understand what my logic is going through in those reference samples, and just slowly but surely, you know, work this into your own strategy, and it'll give you some more weapons that you guys can use when you program your own strategy. Okay, so I guess that's all I had here for today. Let me go ahead and answer a few last questions here. Bob says performance discussions were great. We'll work on it for sure. Thanks, Bob. Juan, you have changed calculate on bar close to true after that as meaning to maintain. Juan, there's no, when I change this to true, there's no real reason to leave this in first tick of bar. I generally leave it there just because, you know, sometimes I switch calculate on bar close to false to true. It really just depends on how I feel like running the strategy, or what I'm thinking about or envisioning how my strategy is going to be running. But in general, because this doesn't really hurt to leave first tick of bar in, and it covers all scenarios, I generally just like to, when I use this particular if statement, I generally use both of these together. I don't go just first bar of session. I always go first bar of session and first tick of bar. Let me see here. Some other questions. Xavier had a question. Is there an unsupported method for accessing current market position inside an indicator, not a strategy, or any other strategy methods? Xavier, unfortunately, there is no unsupported method for accessing that information from an indicator. You would need to do that from a strategy. I would like to run some code. Xavier, if you're referring to discretionary trading, what you can do is actually, if your discretionary trader is running off of a ATM strategy, you can actually use a NinjaScript strategy and monitor that and run whatever code you need off of that. And to do that, there's a reference sample up here somewhere. Let me find it. Getting P&L from an ATM strategy. So this reference sample would be the one that you want to look at, Xavier. Alex had a question. A list of instruments in the strategy, does the entry per direction apply to the whole list of instruments? Alex, the entry per direction applies to each instrument individually, I believe. Let me think. That is correct. Yes, each instrument individually, Alex. Wolfgang, would you spend some words on robustness in order sync to brokers after breakdown? Unsafe interruption. Wolfgang, that's a pretty big topic for synchronization, but what you can do is, if you search in our help guide and you just search sync, there's an article called syncing account positions, and you'll notice, you know, there's a lot of different scenarios that you can read through. So it's a pretty hefty help guide article here, but it definitely goes through all of the various scenarios that you have and how it can work with your strategy. So definitely you want to type just, you know, search sync, and then that'll get you the information you're looking for, Wolfgang. Mr. Yu had a question. Is it possible to get trades performance currency that can profit during backtest? Mr. Yu, yes, you can definitely do that. Just because it's just because it's a backtest does not mean you do not have access to it. You have full access to it. The only thing to note about when you are backtesting, let me bring up my code here, is if you are using your trade collection, if you use real-time, if you use real-time trades, that will not work in a backtest. You need to use all trades for it to work in a backtest, because real-time trades are just real-time trades, and backtesting doesn't have any real-time trades. So that's the only thing you want to watch out for if you want that information in a backtest. Wolfgang said, i.e. order status getting lost. Wolfgang, I'm not sure what you mean by order status getting lost. If you mean, like, if you got disconnected and then you reconnect and then the order state is just different, when you get reconnected to NinjaTrader or to your broker, depending on your broker's technology, but in general, your broker will send out information about your orders, and then that information is restored into NinjaTrader. So if you had a working order while you're disconnected, you get disconnected and that order gets canceled or filled or something happens to it while you're disconnected, as you reconnect to NinjaTrader, NinjaTrader will pull that information from your broker, and then it'll update that information in NinjaTrader so it knows that that order was either canceled, filled, or whatever happened to that order. It knows what happens to your order. Alan says, upper left of your chart is your print size increase. Alan, my charts. Let me bring up my chart. I guess I do not know upper left. I guess I'm not sure what you mean by print size. Sorry about that, Alan. If you mean like all of my font sizes, I do know my monitor does run on a pretty small font size, so unfortunately I don't know how to change that, so I'm sorry if it's a little small. Mr. Yu, that is trades, performance, currency, the current session, and back to seeing. Mr. Yu, correct. So right now, what I have here is the current session. To get the current session, you need to use this technique I've done here. Let's say see right now I'm keeping track of the count. If you want the current session, you want to keep track of the prior session's count. Actually, let me bring up one of the. So if you open up sample P&L, which is one of the reference samples I showed you guys earlier, you'll notice that, see right here, this line here, prior trades, come profit, performance.all trades, trades performance, currency, come profit. We're keeping track of the prior sessions, cumulative profit, and then we're subtracting that. See it here? We're subtracting that from the current session, or we're subtracting that from the total cumulative profit to determine the current session's cumulative profit. So that's how you want to go ahead and do that, Mr. Yu. And that reference sample for you is, let me see here, I believe it is maybe it's this one here? Yes, it's this one. It's the using trade performance statistics for money management reference sample, Mr. Yu. That's the one that will help you out on your question over there, Mr. Yu. Wolfgang says, if I purchase one license of NT, will I be able to run this license multiple instances and multiple pieces? Wolfgang, if you purchase one license of NinjaTrader, you can use that license on any PC you want, just not at the same time. If you have 5 PCs, you can install on 5 PCs, but only one PC can be using that license at a time. So if you want more than one computer to run NT at a time, you need more than one license. James had a question. Do you have a recommended base strategy created using Wizard that has good starting base for training? James, your NinjaTrader actually comes pre-programmed with a base strategy called Sample MA Crossover. That's the base strategy that I used here today, basically, as well. It's the base strategy I use on all of my examples, so I would start there, James. Marco had a question. Is there a way to access the performance of multiple strategies? Marco, there is no way to, or it's not, there's no easy way, I would say, to aggregate the performance of multiple strategies and then come up with some master strategy to, mastermind multiple strategies. Now, there are ways people have done that through more advanced programming, but that's a little bit more advanced than I can cover here today. But technically speaking, you can do it, but it's it's advanced programming to do it. Wolfgang says for purchase. I answered that question already. David, hi, is there a way to access programmatically to an orders object collection. David, NinjaTrader does not actually have an orders object collection, so unfortunately you would need to do that by hand. So if you need an orders object collection, you need to grab all that information by hand and set iOrder objects to all of your orders and just maintain that on your own. George says, how can we get into this reference samples to see them through the NinjaTrader site? George, that's a good question. Let me show you guys how you can get to this support form. So on the screen right now, you want to go to NinjaTrader.com, and then over on the right here, there's a button called Forum. You want to go ahead and press that button. And then if you guys do not have an account on our forums yet, you want to go ahead and create an account. I'm already logged in right now. But then once you log in, you can go scroll down to the reference sample section here, and you can download any of these reference samples, and they're all for free for you guys to download. High Five said, is there any known strategy done that is profitable that we can use from NinjaTrader? High Five, unfortunately, I do not have any strategies that I can share per se. What you can do also on our forums here is there's a file sharing section, and then over here on the strategy side, NinjaTrader 7 strategies, there's a few strategies shared here that you guys can download and try out. So you got, you can come in here, download whatever strategy, try them out, see what you like. Hopefully that helps you out there over there, High Five. David had a question. I mean, all orders collection entered through ChartTrader with or without. David, unfortunately, there is no integration for discretionary trading that is not done through an ATM strategy for NinjaScript strategies. So your NinjaScript strategy manages your NinjaScript generated trades or ATM strategy trades. George said, is there any relative topic reference to avoid overfilled orders in automated systems? George, that is a pretty big topic as well. Unfortunately, let me see references, what I can give you. If you search overfill, what do you get? Let me see if there's anything. So if you come to this page called Unmanaged Approach, there's a section called Overfills here, which discusses a little bit about it. In terms of how you can handle your overfills or try and prevent overfills, the best way to do that is to make sure that your trades are already closed before going into another trade. So if your overfills generally happen when or I find it most common when someone's trying to reverse their position or try to bracket their trades with a high frequency trading. What happens is that, let's say you bracket your trade with a profit target and a stop loss, but your strategy is just constantly switching back and forth the position, or it's constantly hitting a profit target, getting into a new position, and then doing something again. Or if the market, if you guys have your profit and stops really, really close to each other, it is possible that the price action just fills the profit target and then the stop loss before your brokerage is able to report that information back to you. So those are just the best way I see around it, is just try and avoid those scenarios. If your strategy trading logic requires those scenarios, well then you want to make sure all of your trade objects, all of your iOrder objects and things like that are kept clean. That's the best information I can provide you right now, George. Unfortunately, it's a little broad, but it is a pretty big topic, George. If you have questions, you can definitely jump on our support forums and we can help you out there as well. Bob says, can you right-click in your strat to change font? Bob, if you right-click here and go font, yes, you can change it. You can make it size 20. Hopefully that makes it easier to see. Okay, let me see. Ahmed had a question. Do you lose accuracy when you run a strategy in market replay 500x speed? Sometimes get different results in different speeds. Ahmed, you don't lose accuracy. if you're getting different results, that you definitely want to check into your strategy logic. Depending, it is possible to have that depending on how you have your strategy coded. For instance, if you're running on timers or something like that. So we can definitely take a look into that for you if you either jump on our support forums or send us a support email at support@ninjatrader.com. We can help you out on that, Ahmed. Alan says on everyone's screen upper left you can dial in their font size. Alan, sorry, I don't know where that font size adjustment is. I'm not seeing it on my tools over here. Sorry about that. Wolfgang had a question, one last to confirm. I cannot develop one strategy on one PC, run my other strategy on a second PC with Wolfgang, you could definitely develop on a PC. So you do not need a license key to develop. NinjaTrader is free for you guys to download, free for you guys to use completely. The only thing that's not free is if you want to trade live to NinjaTrader. So if you have a PC that you just want to develop on, you can just go to NinjaTrader.com and download for free and use a SIM license key. And the SIM license key is full featured. You can develop, you can get data, you can do whatever you want except placing real orders to your broker. So you can, on your second PC, you can use the SIM key, and on your first PC, you can use the live license key. Alex said, Josh, how did you get to the strategies? I missed it. Alex, over on the forum here, so there's two sections you guys want reference to. It's the reference samples section over here, and there's another section called version 7 strategies over here in the NinjaScript file sharing section. Siraj had a question. Is there any difference in the validity of results of the paid version versus the free version? Siraj, nope. They are exactly the same. James said, but the sample strategy you pointed to is coded. I am looking for one that would come up as a base in the wizard so I can continue using wizard for my application. James, unfortunately not. All these strategies are generally unlocked code. I do not have anything that's a base strategy that you can use in the strategy wizard right now. Unfortunately not. Wolfgang says, super, that's great news, awesome. Hi-Fi says, is there a code that covers price touching a certain indicator? What I meant is touching and not crossover. Hi-Fi, yes, there is code that can do that. Basically, if you just want to touch it, you can just go equals to. So if close price, you can do something like this. If close equals SMA or something like that, then you want to do something, something like that. Okay, guys, so that's, I think I went a little bit over time here, but that's good. You guys had a lot of great questions. Hopefully I conveyed to you guys a little bit about the techniques you guys can use in your own strategies. I want to thank you guys for spending time here with us today. I want to thank Big Mike again for hosting this webinar for us. And if you guys have any questions, support@ninjatrader.com. You can send an email to that, or you can jump on our support forums. Again, to get to the support forums, you just go to NinjaTrader.com over here, and then just click the forum button on your top right over here. And those reference samples I showed you guys, definitely check those out. Definitely check out all the other reference samples as well, because those are they cover a lot of information, and it's really real good information. Again, thank you guys all for joining me here today, and
thank you, Josh.
See you guys again sometime.
Thanks, Josh. Really appreciate it. And I want to remind everybody that the recording for the webinar will be posted on BMT sometime tomorrow, so you can always go back and review it. So if you have any follow-up questions, you can get a hold of Josh. His email address is support@ninjatrader.com. Thanks, guys. I'll see everybody on the forum. Hope everybody has a good weekend.